Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business. Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business. Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 1 year in business.
Here. I just want to take this opportunity Kevin's given me to say thank you. Thank you for instilling a trust in me, to selecting me, choosing me to be the next mayor of this great city we call Palm Bay. I really appreciate the opportunity. I won't let you down. I'll serve you with God, honor, and integrity. May God bless you. May God keep you. May God continue to bless our great city, Palm Bay. Hoorah.
Welcome to Palm Bay Live, celebrating 2 years in business. Hello, good evening, Palm Bay, and welcome to Palm Bay Live. And I'm waiting for my guest to rejoin the screen here in a second, and I'll bring him up in a second here as soon as he rejoins the screen. And welcome. This is going to be yet another interview, and we have with us tonight Mr. Nathan White. He is going to be joining me tonight, and we're going to, Mr. White, welcome to the platform.
Thank you for having me.
Great. And you sound good, and your sound is good, and so we're ready to rock and roll. And we have an audience tonight, and audience, as you come in, please like and share the live to your neighbors, your friends. Mr. Nathan White is looking for your vote. And he's here tonight to tell us about himself and why he's running for office. And I have a plethora of questions ready for him. And I know you have your questions too as well. So as you come on and you have your questions, you can drop them in the comments. And as long as they're appropriate, I'll bring them up on screen and he will try to answer them. So they need to be appropriate because if they're not, I'm not going to drop them on the screen, okay? That's just how it works. So please, no cursing, none of that stuff. Okay, he is a civil, a regular guy like us who's trying to do something good for his community. And so please don't curse in, none of that stuff. We're going to keep it civil tonight. And so, Mr. White, I'm going to ask you to start off by telling us about yourself. The audience already know who I am, hopefully. And I've been doing this now for 2 years. And this week is going to be a lovely week. We're going to have our interview with Mr. Kenny Johnson tomorrow night, Deputy Mayor Kenny Johnson. Then on Wednesday night, we'll have our debates. And so hopefully you will join us for the next 3 days for these programs that we're going to put on. And again, please like and share this live to your neighbors, your friends. And again, you can ask or post questions in the comments and I'll bring them on screen and Mr. White will try to answer them. So Mr. White, I know a little bit about you. We know you're a lifelong resident of Palm Bay. We know that you're against wasteful spending. We know that you're here to restore trust in our elected officials. And we know you have a beautiful wife. Her name is Emily, right?
Yes.
And you're looking to grow your family here in Palm Bay. and you see Palm Bay is the best place to live, work, and play. So, other than that, what else can you tell us about Mr. Nathan White?
Well, thank you, Kevin. I mean, you did cover a lot of the good points there. But yeah, I was born and raised here, lived here my entire life. And you're right. I love it. I love Palm Bay. I love living here. I've had many friends over the years do what's become classic for the area of saying, oh, I got to get out of this. I got to get out of this town, got to get out of this small town or something like that, something along those lines. And it's only a matter of time. Maybe it's 3 years in one case or 4 in another, 8 in one friend of mine. But they come back and they always say the same thing, not necessarily verbatim, but that's nowhere else felt like home. Nowhere else felt right. And so they come back because Palm Bay is the place that after they do what they wanted to do elsewhere, they want to come back here. They want to come back here to live their life, to have their days, to raise their family in a lot of cases, or start a family, or in some cases, even particularly to pursue their career. So I've always felt that I never wanted to leave Palm Bay. I've traveled a fair amount, but I was always excited to come home. So a little bit about me, I guess, would be I'm very active in my church. I attend Church on the Rock on Babcock Street, right across the street from the Palm Bay High football field. Been going there pretty much my entire life. Been very active in the past and even recent past with the worship band, as well as young adult ministry, youth ministry, even bringing the word on some Sunday mornings after I started getting a little bit obsessed with biblical scholarship in my spare time. But obviously campaigning for about a year and a half. I've nearly forgotten what spare time is like. But yeah, so I was very active in that. Oh, yes. And my mom would not be happy if I forgot that I also volunteer with the church's food pantry every Tuesday. It's when our food pantry is open. And that's been really rewarding because I've gone through plenty of hardships in my life, including in my childhood. And that kind of ministry is close and dear to my heart. So being able to help in that way has always been very rewarding. But other than that, I'm a Star Wars nerd. And beyond that, I'd have to have a question to guide me.
Awesome. All right. So, as stated, you're a lifelong resident of Palm Bay, and found your story that you just tell us very interesting, sir. So you paid your way through school and worked night shifts to do it, right? How
Yes.
did that experience shape you and your desire to run for office?
That's a good question. It definitely had an impact. I traveled farther than I originally planned to attend the Melbourne campus for the classes I was interested in, simply because of the recommendation of someone I trusted for a professor there. And I never regretted it. Professor Christopher Muro is an incredible teacher, an incredible instructor, and I learned a lot in his classes. I was definitely, I didn't expect to be a classroom, I don't know, nerd, teacher's pet, whatever. But I definitely was. We'd walk together to our cars after class, talking about the topics, talking about what we were learning, what he was teaching, or sometimes how it applied to the world around us. But I just found it immensely fascinating. And it taught me, especially the state and local government class that he taught, it opened my eyes to how much more important state and local government is than even federal and national. How much more it affects your day-to-day life, your home, your lawn, your fence, anything of that nature and beyond. And that's what opened my eyes to paying much closer attention to that closer circle of government, so to speak, that lower level municipal government, especially. And it really started me down the path of paying attention, leading to getting involved, leading to getting upset, as most people do, once they start paying attention to politics in one way or another, in one place or another. But it definitely planted the seeds that led to the conversation with a friend of mine saying, complaining, as we all do, about something that was going on, and them asking the question, so what are you going to do about it? And the longer conversation had after that led to my wife and I talking about it and praying about it for around 6 months before we decided that we felt like it was the right thing to do, even though we knew it was going to be hard to run for city council.
Okay. So Nathan, you never had an elected position before in government, right? You never
Correct.
served in any boards that I know of?
Not before the last year and a half.
Okay. So do you consider this a liability or an asset?
Neither. I think depending on the circumstance and depending on the person, it could definitely go either way. I know there are plenty of people that their service on boards may have prepared them. In fact, some of them, looking at them, I'm holding off because I'm too busy right now having the conversation with them that I think they might be a good fit for council one day. Not sure what day that would be, but planting that seed as well. But for me, I think it was a bit of a benefit because I was able to look at the system as it stands without having that tainted seems like a strong word, but I can't think of the alternative. Without having it tainted by the excuses and the reasons that are often thrown about as to why things are the way they are, that often keep things as the status quo, inevitably boiling down to some version of, well, that's not how we do this, or, well, this is just how we do this. And then saying, of course, having concerns dismissed because you say, well, you just don't understand. So coming in, I paid very close attention and I learned as much as I could and I read as much as I could. Going through the budgets is a tedious task, hundreds and hundreds of pages of confusing words and large numbers. But I was determined to know what I was talking about. Right. And doing that allowed me to see that I think that there is a better way of doing things in a lot of these areas. Okay. A way that's informed by normal everyday living.
I'm going to get to some of the viewers' questions. I'm not going to, so audience, I'm just going to take them one by one and then immerse them with my questions, my line of questions. So I'm just going to scroll up here and let's see what's the first one is. One viewer commented that it's a bad timing for this interview because it's conflicting with the governance debate, but local politics are so important, so we need to fit this in. So one viewer said Nathan White has his vote, all the good stuff. So yeah, all right. So let's go to this question right here. It says you have less education than some of the kids on the youth advisory board. What qualifies you to make decisions and such complex issues and massive budget of Palm Bay when you have only worked at a gas station and a UPS store? Is that true?
No, not quite.
Okay.
So let's see. Going through some of my other work experience, my previous job right before coming to the UPS store that I manage was actually the head of business development for a small AV design firm in Orlando. I was actually the only non-engineer in the company. That's how dedicated they were to the craft. But we designed and built audio systems, sound systems for ride vehicles for theme parks. And I managed business development for the company for a couple of years, garnering, I forget the exact number, so I don't want to be wrong, but it was in the low millions of contracts for the company, which to me felt like easy work because they did incredible work. So selling it, so to speak, felt natural. But that is just one of, and I feel like it's odd to go through the whole list. I could, but there would be two other jobs that weren't listed in this comment that I also have held in my time.
Yeah.
And as far as having less education than some of the kids on the youth advisory board, I think that's fantastic. The kids on the youth advisory board have been able to, have the time and opportunity to get that education.
Nathan, and some of these questions, and some of them I do not have a chance to screen them ahead of time. So if they're ridiculous to you, you can just say pass, and I will just pass on it, and then we can just move on. So I don't want to, because I don't get to screen them that quickly because I'm doing a one-man show here. So so just tell me, Kevin, I don't want to answer that one, and we'll just pass on it. Okay.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. But just let me just say, I would say what qualifies me is we'll find out if I'm qualified on November 8th.
Okay, sir. Good answer. All right. Uh, Somebody says city council is a great place to start his political journey. Okay. And all right, let me ask you this. You know, the one of uh, the things that is been going around right now in the public sphere is has to do with this golf course.
Mhm.
And so this question is jumping out. And what are your thoughts on the abandoned Rangers golf course? And my 2 cents on it is, do you think that the city should step in and buy that golf course?
Okay. Um, I'll come to yours second, and I'll try to be brief because I know that
Okay.
occasionally I can go on. Um, my thoughts in general, I'm afraid I wouldn't, if I was on council, I wouldn't speak on it. If I was on council with the amount of information I have at the moment, I wouldn't feel comfortable speaking on it just yet. So I preface this with this is a lot of hearsay
Mhm.
and some opinion mixed together. But from what I've seen and what I understand of the situation, it is rather tragic, especially for the Bayside community. The number of people, the large number of people that bought their homes there, a lot of them intending to spend their final golden years there uh, on a golf course because that was the dream that they've had for a long time. To have that pulled out from under them
Mhm.
is sad enough, is tragic enough, without the fact that on the top of that, the situation being presented would be instead of that golf course, we're going to put 300 to 400 homes right next to you, even though some of those lots, their their back porch is about a foot away from the line, and that was fine with the golf course. It would be very awkward for a house to be there. So it's a very bad situation, and it's a very touchy situation because you have to balance the situation of what is best for the community. Is it being handled properly by the owner? And also being very careful to respect property rights. Because despite the fact that people can do bad things or negative things with their liberties, that doesn't necessarily mean you can take away those liberties. Those liberties are extremely important. So you have to find a way to find that balance in any given situation. As far as your question, uh, sad to say it, but absolutely not. There is not I don't believe the city owned golf courses in Melbourne turn a profit. I'm not sure of almost any government owned and run business or business type thing that turns a profit. I believe it would be a huge drain on the city, and it just wouldn't be the right move. It would be tragic to see the city try to swoop in like Hero and buy it and make it a city golf course, only to have the city have to do the exact same thing a few years down the road.
Okay. All right. I won't opine anymore on this. Actually live in the community. And this is where my home so it's a tragic situation.
Yes.
But
If we're
anyways, we're
talking
gonna
about
leave it like
desires,
that.
I do hope it stays a golf course in one way.
For our sake, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go back to my questions, your audience. So please hold your questions for a second. I will come back to you in a second. But I'm going to go to my questions here. And sir, I want to ask you a tough question because there, a couple weeks ago, is circulated on social media, and I think you know what I'm going to ask you. I see you smiling, and so I just want clarity on it. And so I want to give you the opportunity to clarify a Facebook post that has been circulated on about your campaign. And there's a comment allegedly circulating that customer service agent from AT&T and you got into it, and a certain comment was made. I'm not going to reiterate whatever that was said, but how do you respond to this allegation? Just tell me your response. Is it true? Is it not true? Was it made up? How do you think it got started?
I think it would be very unfruitful to talk about how I think it got started, especially considering there's no hard evidence at the moment, so to speak, nothing that's courtroom worthy or anything like that. But as far as the legitimacy, it's not. It's 100% fake, false, whatever word you want to use there, like that. But inaccurate, incorrect. It's not an alteration of a comment. It's literally a fabricated comment. I have never said anything like that. I would never say anything like that. And in fact, on some of the posts in some of the groups that this has been shared in, some of the people that were in that comment thread 5 years ago, dropping comments elsewhere in the thread, have chimed in themselves to say, I was there, and no, he didn't. Because it's not comical, because this is a terrible thing to say about somebody, and a terrible slander to spread around. But it is funny in the fact that anyone thought it would be believable that someone who's been in ministry, in customer service, and just all over the place, and in the same city his entire life. So there's plenty of people that know me, at least peripherally, that the one time in my documented history that I would suddenly decide to be racist would be while dealing with a cable company.
Okay. All right. So let's end it there. There's no racist bone in your body, right?
That's right.
Okay, let's move on, because I have a lot more questions for you. So and the night is young. The night is not young, rather. Okay, local economy, sir. Let's start there. Employers all over Palm Bay, including Palm Bay, rather, have been faced with shortages, including the city of Palm Bay. As you can see, if you go to the city website, you can see there's a lot of job openings. So what do you believe the city needs to do to retain and attract workforce that is going to stay and grow with us?
I would say the primary thing that needs to be done is refocusing our priorities as far as how the city is growing. I'm going to try not to rabbit trail on that, because there's other things to be said there. But when it comes to the growth of a city, it's natural. It's going to happen. It's pretty much inevitable. So the question is, how do you grow? To some degree, where, but especially how. And I think Palm Bay has been growing rapidly and in an ill-advised manner. Okay. I believe we need to be focusing in, and this has been said before, we need to be focusing in on commercial base, and not just any commercial base. I'm gonna take a hot take here and say that we don't need any more Dollar Generals, but we do need more tech jobs. Sorry, I couldn't help it. We do need more tech jobs. We do need more local restaurants. We need a local coffee shop desperately. I'm tired of having to drive so far to get a good cup of coffee. There are some places to get some types of coffee very good in Palm Bay.
There's one right here in Bayside Lakes, a very good diner. I forgot the name of it, but it's popular with the city employees. When you drive by there, you will see the fire truck park up, the police officers parked up. It's a little small diner, Bayside Lakes, but it's very popular.
Is it a variety of types of coffee and coffee options and such?
Or is it it's a diner. I can tell you that. So they serve coffee among other things, but it's locally owned, and I think very good place.
Okay, yeah. I'll give it a shot, because
I think you may know where it is. It's right across from the dollar store.
Yeah, no, I do. I didn't try it out because I saw the diner and I'm like, okay, well, that's not the same thing.
Yeah, but
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah,
and I'll come back to thank you.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think we need to be refocusing on the commercial base, and a specific type of commercial base, not Dollar Generals, but again, local restaurants, locally owned small businesses, especially, and on the opposite side of that spectrum, tech jobs. Small business tech jobs would be great. They're less.
How do we? Let's refocus that question, because I'm more concerned with the employees of the city we don't have that workforce there. I mean, the pay as well to retain them is not good. I had some interviews over the summer with some individuals running for, the school board, and some of these questions I asked has to do with the teachers, retention of them, and that kind of thing. And it goes along the same line, because the pay for a city employee is not much.
Okay.
And I think
forgive me. I thought you were talking about employees in the city. I see now you meant employees of the city.
Employees of the city, sir.
Okay. I got you there. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So getting and retaining employees of the city. I think there's some severe restructuring that needs to be done. That's something that I'm not the expert in, but I would be, I'm planning to seek the consult of experts in that field. because I know that they're, from the people I've talked to that do work for the city, not surprisingly, all of them insisted on speaking only with the promise of anonymity, that there are a lot of administrative problems in various departments, in various levels. And a lot of the things that I hear could be summarized in: the people on the ground are great, the people upstairs 50-50. And I think that that has a real effect. I think we have some incredible employees, some amazing top tier, forget about the city, talking about the state quality of employees. But we need to properly elevate and properly reward those employees and provide correction, or if necessary, if absolutely necessary, replace those that would drag the system down, that would drag those good employees down as well. You don't want people on the ground doing the work being, to use a strong word, any form of abused from above. You need to reward hard work and quality work. So I'd say some restructuring in the administration, most likely.
Okay. All right. So you already had started talking about the workforce in general. So let's go there. How do we help the workforce that, whether it be Harris, L3 Harris, or, those big other companies that are here, how do we help them out in retaining good workforce for the companies? Because one of the things that, and always been a problem that I always, since I've been doing this thing, I've been hearing from members who are running, running for council or commissioner seats, is that, well, there's not a nightlife atmosphere in the city of Palm Bay. There is not a night, but yet it's in Melbourne, or there's nothing here to retain them, and then do you hear about, we're going to create something, but nothing ever happens. So what are you going to do to advocate for stuff like that in the city of Palm Bay? And also, while you're answering that, please also talk about the live-in affordable housing situation as well.
Sure. That's a big thing to add on.
I know, but try to summarize it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, there was a lot there, so I'm going to try to pick on parts of it, so to speak. The nightlife, I think we've all heard that request or that complaint pretty often, and it is something that it has to be handled a little bit carefully. There is a type of nightlife that you kind of don't want in your city, but I think the main thing that would need to change to be more productive towards that goal is forward thinking, planning ahead. We've been talking about having a downtown for decades, and nothing has materialized. And the closest attempts are not even recognizable as an attempt, really. So I would say planning ahead. There are a couple places in Palm Bay where I think one would fit quite well. There were 3, but one of them got a car wash approved in front of it. So that probably killed that dream, unfortunately. And again, actually, if you got forward thinking when it comes to that kind of thing, you can't just keep saying that you want a downtown without doing anything to get it, which we haven't. If you're going to approve rezoning 10 times a meeting, every meeting, seemingly rather haphazardly, including lately, the trend seems to be car washes. We're going to have our pick in not too long. There'll be one on almost every corner. But see, planning ahead, if you want something.
Nathan, not to cut you off, sir, but I have to ask these tough questions because I need to ask you this. If you were to get on the dais, what would you do? What would a Nathan White do to go out and bring in, attract business to come in the city of Palm Bay to say, listen, let's create this zone wherein we can create these possibilities to have these long-lasting business that attract this kind of atmosphere? What would you do?
That's a good question, and it's something that I didn't. It's something from my work history that I didn't expect would apply so much. But talk to business owners, talk to entrepreneurs in the broader area. That was what I did with business development a lot. When it came to these projects that we worked on with the company, we didn't have something to go and sell them. We didn't come to them and say, hi, buy our product. We had to build a reputation so that when they had a project, they came to us for the service that we provided that could be used in that project. So we had to build that relationship of, we are the people you want when you get to the point where you're going to do this, or when you have that thing come up, or when you want to do that. So I'd be talking to entrepreneurs. I already am talking to entrepreneurs and business owners in the broader area in Melbourne, in West Melbourne, farther, about the possibilities for Palm Bay. That conversation always starts with a shrug or a cynical chuckle from the person because, oh, build something good in Palm Bay. Unfortunately, and it's pretty well known, we've become a bit of a joke in that community, in a fair number of communities, unfortunately, because of our inability to get things done, including especially a downtown or a nightlife. So talking to those business owners, building that relationship so that when we can get to the point where we say, remember what we talked about? We found a spot for it. We found a place that would fit all of these things. And also we've talked to you, and you. And that combination of businesses sounds like a dynamite combination for a nightlife.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to get back to affordable housing here in a second. So I'm going to take one or two questions from the audience, and so they don't feel left out, because this purpose of Palm Bay Live is all about them. That's the reason why I founded this thing. So it's to make sure that their voice gets heard. So give me 1 second. Let me scroll up, audience. Bear with me. Again, if your question is not appropriate, I won't put it on the screen. So don't hate me, okay? So it needs to be appropriate. I'm running a one-man thing here, so I got to screen these to make sure that they are appropriate. Let's see. This person, I didn't see the first part of their question, but let's see. It says, the top 3 objectives of your term should you win.
Sure. Top 3 objectives of my term. I like that question. It's thorough in what it's asking.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3 objectives of my first term would be to re-equip our police and fire first and foremost, honestly. We've done a fair job recently of re-equipping our fire department in a lot of different areas, equipment and things like that. We are so far behind, though, still with our police that it is disheartening and in some ways and to some degrees somewhat terrifying. The equipment that they have to use is so below par, it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable for the people that we count on in life and death situations. Palm Bay PD, I think everybody's familiar. See cops driving around. They have laptops in their cars, and they have special trays that hold them so that they can run plates, check for warrants, a great many things. Palm Bay's officers, they don't have police laptops. They have regular laptops like this one. So when they get a call, let's just call it a dramatic call, and have to go lights and sirens at excessive speeds, what would normally be excessive speeds, and then to maybe take a sharp turn, that laptop goes flying and it shatters. And they have to try and repair it or replace it with another cheap laptop. It's not durable. It doesn't have the case that police laptops are supposed to have. There's an entire industry built around this kind of thing. And in that situation, that leaves an officer completely void of one of the greatest communication and information sources. If they can't run plates, if they can't check IDs, if they can't run an identification card, they don't know who they've just put in the back seat. They don't know what they've just walked into. They can't check on the details of a house without reaching out to another person another officer to do the same, just because we can't afford to give our officers law enforcement laptops. That is sad, and that's not appropriate. So re-equipping our police force would be one of my top priorities within that. Another would be setting up a agreeable with the rest of the council, some much higher reoccurring dollar amount for road maintenance. The fact that it's only been a reoccurring line item for around 3 years, 2 to 3 years, is unacceptable. The fact that this is the first year that it's reached the point of $1 million, $1 million, and prior it's been less, is a joke. It's not acceptable. For a city of this size, over 800 miles of roads within our 100 square mile city of 129,000 people, and they want to put $1 million towards roads, that doesn't do almost anything. And they've already admitted that they don't have enough money in the road bond to fix all of the roads in Palm Bay, but haven't talked about where they're going to stop, where they're going to draw the line and say, I know that all of you residents paid for this, but you guys over here don't actually get new roads.
So while you're on that, because I do have a question along those lines, so let me just go ahead and ask it now. So as you know, you're talking about, for the audience to back up, in 2000, what was it, 19 or 18, we approved the road bond. And so are you satisfied with the progress that the road, where we at right now with the roads?
No.
You're not satisfied.
And most of Palm Bay is not. There have been a great many roads not left behind, so to speak, but the fact that the road bond program is so far behind, on top of the fact that they've now admitted it's not actually enough to do the whole project, that does not make me satisfied in that road bond that we've all been paying for. The fact that some roads were in perfectly fine condition, and I have residents reaching out to me to complain about the fact that their road was fine, not bumpy, didn't make them spill their coffee, and it got repaved, and they drive to a friend's house and, they have to go 5 miles an hour so they don't break their suspension. And that road has not been repaved since they moved in.
Then as somebody who's actually chaired the PAC that helped pass this thing, if you don't know, I don't know if you know that, but one of the things that I ran into was that if you have 3 houses on a road, that's not enough to pay for that road. You understand what I'm saying? So that was one of the issues that keep coming up. It's like, how do we equate that? So we also have to look into that factor too, but I get where you're coming from. So I'm not here to tell you you're wrong or you're right, but I get where you're coming from. So let me see what else is here. Patrick, good question about the charter amendments. I will get to those in a second. I have a line of questions in regards to those. And we already answered the question on the road bond. Another Facebook user is asking that. So we understand that. Let's see, what else do we have here? How do we create an environment for new business to be attracted to Palm Bay? We kind of covered that. We were talking about the nightlife, that kind of thing. Anything else you want to opine on that, sir?
But when it comes to an environment for new businesses to be attracted to come to Palm Bay, I think one of the things that we would need to look at would be the way we treat local businesses, especially when it comes to not just a business that's new to Palm Bay, but a brand new business. Mm-hmm. We've had businesses that they didn't give me permission to name them. So, but businesses we know that are nearby, that a lot of us visit, that wanted to build in Palm Bay, and then chose very specifically to build just outside of Palm Bay instead, because of the environment of Palm Bay for businesses. And there are many small and large reasons for that. But we need to make sure that we're talking to the businesses that are here, and that also we're treating them right, that there's some degree, and this has come up before, some degree of local preference when it comes to things. For instance, even the city can contract out for some of these things instead of reaching far and wide for a business to do something that we have a local Palm Bay rooted business that could do. If there's no loyalty at all, businesses aren't going to want to plant here.
I didn't have this as one of my questions, but I want to ask you, what do you think? What are your thoughts on the Bayfront Redevelopment Agency, the BRA, over there? What do you think? I mean, is it something that is it doing anything good for Palm Bay, or what are your thoughts on it? Have you had time to review it?
Not enough. I have reviewed some. I would say pretty simply, I don't feel like I'm sure enough of a position on that. I'm still looking. There's a lot to look at. I'm not sure whether or not it's even clear. I mean, I'll find out once I have a chance to kind of finish reviewing the information that's out there. But from what I've seen so far, I think it might even be a little too soon to tell whether or not it's going to work out or not. Still hope then in that case, obviously.
All right. All right. Let's see. Nathan, how do you feel about funding for the police and fire department?
It's not good. Simply speaking, there's not enough of it. And also not just throwing money at a problem, but there are specific things that need to happen. One thing that I'll say specifically, and I don't mean to leave out fire, but just for the sake of time, I'm going to pick one example. With the police department, the more I've learned about their situation and what they've gone through in the last 10 years, they have done what the entire city of Palm Bay probably should have done. Mm-hmm. And the police department probably should have been one of the only ones who didn't have to do it. But instead, they're one of the only ones that did do it. And that is contract and tighten their belt and reorganize so that they can continue to do their job with what they had when what they had wasn't exactly enough, or the preferred enough, I guess you could say. The fact that the police are operating with the equipment, with the staff numbers that they have, it is scary. That's the obvious part, but it's amazing, actually. Our police department is a shining star. Unfortunately, a small but very shining star. The things that they've done, the fact that they've consolidated as much as they have, which they shouldn't have had to do, but they found ways to get their job done with what they had. I think they are even more heroes than police would normally be considered, and they should obviously normally be considered heroes anyway. You could almost call them fiscal heroes. But the fact that we, for instance, don't even have a general crimes unit anymore. Right. I don't know if people knew that. We actually haven't for a while. We have a major crimes unit or a major case unit, but the general crimes unit, which was the same size, was absorbed by major crimes, except absorbed didn't actually mean absorbed. It meant it went away. There are around 7 or 10 detectives working all of the crimes
for Palm Bay.
That's unheard of. And yet they're doing it. They're struggling to no end. They are stressed beyond belief. And
Nathan, what do you think about the response time? I hear a lot of complaints. Watching the meetings and attending the meetings, people are complaining about the response time, both by the police and fire department, and ambulance. What do you think about that?
I agree with the dozens of officers that I've talked to, which is that I hate it, but also they're doing their best. On an average night, there's 15 to 18 officers on duty for the entire city of Palm Bay. They're broken into sections, so they may or may not be near the thing that needs them the most. They may have to call from one section to come to the other because there are so few officers that if there is a truly major crime, it requires more officers than are in that section of the city, and they have to pull from another. And then, God forbid, something terrible happens in that section, and now there's only 2 cops over there. And that's not acceptable. They've done an incredible job of stretching themselves thinner than I would have thought possible in order to keep Palm Bay covered in that cloak of safety. But it is a thin cloak at this point.
Yeah. And so this goes back to my initial question asking about how to retain city force, a viable city force, in order to maintain the services of City of Palm Bay, because that is a problem. And one of the things that I keep hearing from the community is that we're just not paying our police officers enough. We're not paying our fire department enough. And so these are things that as a whole we have to look at, because that leads me to another question about the proposed plan to increase property tax from 3% And so I need your thoughts on this, your position. And so please explain where you at with that, because knowing all of these things that we just talked about is that we can't retain our forces, our response time for fire department is lacking, our police department is stressed in, our fire department is stressed thin. So what is Nathan's thoughts on raising our property taxes so we can, have a balanced situation all the way around?
Sure. I would say that's the answer to that question is the same reason I chose "End Waste" as one of my slogans, so to speak. Palm Bay has the money to do what we need to do. Palm Bay has the money to equip our police and fire and to staff them appropriately, to pay them appropriately. But we're not, because we're spending it other places, often, in fact, in very small pieces. But
give us an example.
Small pieces will
give us an example. I'm pretty sure you've studied this over time because you run it. So I'm pretty sure you took the time to study. So educate the community. Give us an example of where you believe we're doing this at. The city, that's they're doing this
at. Wasting money?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say one of the most glaring examples that's recent would be the planned and proposed city-owned RV park planned for being built inside of Fred Poppe Regional Park. There's currently about $4 million sitting in accounts set aside for that RV park, and that is not the final cost. They're actually paying for design work again a second time, because since they paid for the design work the first time, they realized it was going to cost a lot more than $4 million. And there are actually special requirements for design work for a project, legally speaking, when it costs over that amount of money. So they wasted money by paying for the design work without having any understanding of how much it was going to cost, even loosely. Because if you're wrong enough to have to pay for all the design work again, you've messed up. And then on top of that, that money is already sitting aside, just doing nothing, waiting for an RV park that would be owned by the city, while we are missing fire stations. It's one thing to build an RV park. I'm not against RVs, but there are things that you don't do when you are strapped for cash, or when you are in desperate need of something that you don't have. If your car breaks down, you need to fix your car to get to work, for instance, to use a more normal example. But if your car breaks down and you say, oh no, I should really buy a new TV. No, you shouldn't. You should fix your car. And if you buy a new TV instead and then say, oh, well, I need someone to lend me some money because I don't have enough to fix my car after buying that TV, then no one's going to give you any money if they value ever getting it back.
All right. Thank you for the example. Let's keep moving, because there's another thing, because I think I was listening to a city council meeting a couple of weeks back, and I think across the street or something like that, they're looking at doing developers planning to do something similar, right? I think.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Three Forks.
Yeah. That's something similar. It's going to be coming in that vicinity. So.
Yes, I believe technically speaking, theirs would be an RV park, and I think the cities they're saying. I think someone corrected me. The cities would be an RV campground, not an RV park. Although the RV campground would be inside our park. So I'm not sure of the difference there. I'm not sure if the difference is super important. But yes, that would be directly across the street.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's keep this conversation moving. So I'm just throwing things out there. I'm not saying I disagree or agree. I just want to make sure the community eyes are open as to what is happening, and I'm not telling you my position. We're just having a conversation, folks, and it's a good conversation to have. All right, let's keep it moving. Nathan, I know there's plenty of questions here, and folks, if I don't get to all of them, please forgive me, but I do have other questions here for Nathan, and I know some of these questions are going to be popular with the audience as well. We already talked about the possibly downtown situation for Palm Bay, so I'm going to skip over this question, but let's go back to a more controversial question. And this has to do with State Representative Randy Fine. State Representative Randy Fine. So you've been endorsed by Mr. Fine, right?
Yes.
And he has been in a public battle with Deputy Mayor Kenny Johnson. And so he has labeled him a pedophile. He has labeled him a rapist. He has accused him of sabotaging you on social media. So do you endorse the language that Representative Randy Fine utilizes on social media when attacking the deputy mayor? And will you ask the Representative Fine to stop with his rhetoric at any point in time?
That would imply that you think I haven't. But
Well, I mean, I don't know because I don't know what kind of conversations you had with him.
Fair enough. Allow me to
Yeah.
explain. I don't endorse in particular anybody's, especially social media presence.
Mhm.
I think that communication has broken down pretty widely throughout not just politics, but the world as a whole, and it's not seen anywhere more than social media. So when it comes to name calling, I'm not for it. When it comes to accusations, that's, unless I'm named, that's not something I want to dip into because I don't think it's appropriate. Honestly, because even if it is, if there's proof of something, then it will be proven. And if there's not proof, well, then it's still uncertain, and I'm not going to dip into that either. I've not touched on or talked about any of the same things that Representative Fine has talked about, for the simple reason of I can't say that I know with certainty anything. I can't say with certainty that I know one way or the other or some strange and particular middle road. I endorse what I say, and I stand by what I say. And I don't think even if I win in November that I would be exactly in the place to tell State Representative Randy Fine what to do. And just based on his social media presence, I don't think that's ever worked. But I respect the fact that I respect the fact that he's passionate about his beliefs. I respect the work that he does in Tallahassee. He's made some incredible strides, and I was proud to accept his endorsement.
But you know, one time that Nathan, that I mean, with all due respect to Mr. Fine, that one time he wanted to pretty much wipe us off the map, right? As a city, you know that, right?
Yes, I do. In fact, we had a long conversation about that. I can't say I
You
talked
still-
about it
you still
exactly.
accept his endorsement.
Yeah, no, I do. He's not trying to wipe us off the map in the military term, or in the military way that term is used. I believe if we're talking about the same thing, if I'm recalling correctly, we were talking about structuring of municipal and local governments and the different levels that exist and how long they've existed. Kind of a really deep dive into the concept of like home rule and things like that. Breaking into the fact that cities are actually a substantially newer concept when it comes to government than counties. So those comments, from if they're the same things that I'm thinking of, we're talking about somewhat, I believe, in jest, going back to that method of just county levels as being the lowest level of government. But no, I don't think he's trying to do away with Palm Bay.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
What about his tactics of blocking his constituents on social media when they do he don't align with their beliefs or what they're saying? Do you agree with that tactic?
I've not seen an example that would fit that description. I've seen some of the things that were said by people before being blocked, and can't say that I disagree with the decision in some of those cases. You know, you mentioned with this discussion, this interview, that there were questions posed that might not go up there because they need to be appropriate. And
yeah, I mean, I don't want
there's the
anybody
line.
cursing at you or anything like that, or you know, I'm saying. So that's not the basis of my platform. So I don't want anybody putting stuff that is, you know, that's outrageous. You get what I'm saying?
And that's wise.
Yeah.
And that's wise. And it's also, when it comes to the idea of blocking constituents, one of the problems you run into is Facebook is not a government platform. It's not the main source of communication with your state representative or any other form of government. So it is not like you're blocked out from the system as a whole when that happens. And also with Facebook, you don't know that that's a constituent.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many fake or to some degree false profiles. Someone says, "Oh, I'm in your district." Well, then why does your thing say you live in another state? And then it changes, or your profile picture is a fish, and your name is not an actual name.
I just want to get because I know these are some of the comments I'm seeing in the thread right now, and I'm not going to put them all up there because I see them asking about this, and I already had my question ready. So I just hopefully answered everybody. Hopefully you've answered everybody's question, and you have put their minds at ease where that is concerned. And yeah. So if you need to get with Nathan more on his views on where that situation is concerned, contact his campaign and let him answer. But I'm done with the line of question where that is concerned. I think he pretty much answered my question. And so I'm going to move on. So let's get to the amendments, Nathan. One of the amendments on the table is to increase council members' pay. Do you agree with this? Nathan, you froze. Ay.
Oh, we're back.
You there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Are you here?
Okay. Yeah, you froze for a minute.
I was gonna say I could still hear you. That was odd.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I don't agree with it.
You don't agree with it?
No, I'm not saying that what we have now is the golden standard that all should strive for when it comes to council member pay. But I think there's debate to be had. There's a discussion to be had about it. I don't think that this is the right option or the right time. At a time when so much of the city is so unsatisfied with the things that have been happening in their local government, I think it is tactless to simultaneously ask for a 100% raise, a month off, and double the signatures from citizens if they want to do an ordinance by petition. I think the combination of those and some others of these charter amendments put together, I don't see how they can be anything aside from insulting.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask your positions. You know the charter amendments. Let's start with the first one. Charter amendment, referendum number 1. This charter amendment is governing compensation of the mayor and city council members. We just answered that. Where do you stand on referendum number 2? Charter amendment governing the employment of current and former elected officials by the city.
I'm for it. I'm a little confused by it, only because for one, there is a rule on the books for that already. 2, the primary or most obvious change in this amendment is changing it from, or making it to include both current and former instead of just one or the other. That I agree with as well. The fact that a large amount of the other wording in that portion is also changing. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure why. And unfortunately, with everything going on in October leading into November, I haven't had the time that I would have liked to take the deep dive into that, so to speak. I find it odd, but I'm not sure what's going on there or what the reason for it is. I haven't found an answer, so to speak. But so I would say, unless I find that answer and it's not good, then I would say that I'm for it.
Okay. What about referendum number 3, sir? This one is talking about the governing process for filling vacancies on the city council.
You have to ask.
What are your position on it?
I am thoroughly against it.
Okay.
And I think the majority of Palm Bay is, as was evident by the drama that took place leading us towards our March special election. I think Palm Bay residents want the right to vote for their elected officials, and that elected officials should remain elected officials, not appointed.
And just so the public knows, one of the things I was hoping to do tonight before we got on the live with Nathan was to do a panel discussion with some of the individuals who sat on the charter committee. But unfortunately, because of a work conflict, I wasn't able to pull that off. I had to cancel it. So yeah, we keep it moving. Where do you stand on referendum number 4, which calls for 2 city council meetings each month, except for June? So this is a scheduling the city council meetings.
Yes, the charter already calls for 2 meetings a month. The difference with this one would be losing some wording on special meetings, which is odd, but giving council the month of June off. I am against this again. I find it concerning the wiping away of some of the special council meeting language and the idea of giving council an entire month off when there's only 2 meetings a month anyway. And the meetings currently run 5, 6, 7 hours long. They say it's to lighten the workload on staff in particular, they say. I don't see how that could possibly be the case. If you put off your work for a month, you just have 2 months worth of work the next month. So I don't see it being practical. I don't see it achieving the goals they want, and I'm not for it.
Okay. That's his position. All right. Referendum number 5, sir. This charter amendment is governing process to adopt or repeal ordinances by city petitions, citizens petition. The language reads, shall section 3.092 of the City of Palm Bay Charter be amended to increase the required number of electors who must sign a petition to propose or repeal city ordinance from 5% to 10%.
Yes. I touched on this already. I am against this. Doubling the amount of signatures required to do an ordinance by petition is completely unnecessary. If one of the concerns that was voiced by someone who was for this on the Charter Review Committee was the potential for this 5% being so low, it's a cap that could be abused. It's never been used since it's been 5%. It's not been used once. So I think that's a bit of an erroneous argument. And the percentage necessary for a charter amendment by petition versus a ordinance by petition, it's different intentionally and with real purpose. The charter is supposed to be the stronger, harder to change document, and ordinances, there's a dozen changes per meeting. So it makes sense that they're different. And with a city the size of Palm Bay, again, 129,000 people, 89 or so thousand registered voters, 5% of the population, getting signatures from 5% of the population, that is no easy task, as evidenced by the fact that it hasn't happened yet. And doubling it is unnecessary, and it further distances the people from their own governance.
Okay. All right. Where do you stand on referendum number 6? This one has to deal with charter amendment related to pronouns used to refer to the city manager.
Yeah, no problem with that at all. I looked through it. It's straightforward. It's every time it says he, they switch it to he or she. No problem with that.
All right. Number 7 has to do with determining the winner of a council member election in the event of a tie. This would call for a runoff election.
Could you repeat that?
This charter amendment is related to determine the winner of a council member election in the event of a tie, I believe.
Yes. Again, I think it's more. This one's more clerical, more of a clarification, so to speak, of the wording. So I'm for this one. It's not really a major change.
Okay. All right. Number 8. This is related to limitations on cities' ability to increase ad valorem taxes.
Deeply upset at how that ended up being worded on the ballot, to be completely honest. Right. It feels deceptive in its language, because what it really does is it completely gets rid of the 3% cap on property tax increases. It takes almost an entire page of text down to a single sentence. The council has the ability to tax. The people voted in that cap not long ago, and by a lot, a 70% margin or so, they want this. I was very clear. The fact that it's been in existence now for 5 budgets, 5 budgets or so, and it's been broken half the time. That says something to how much the city government is listening to the city residents. So requesting to take it off because they can't seem to manage to respect the will of the people in the first place. So they're asking the people to change their will. That's not how this works.
Well, Nathan, it's been a pleasure having you on this platform tonight, sir. And we're going to be having you back on Wednesday night for a debate with Mr. Kenny Johnson. That should be fun. There's a lot of public interest where that one is concerned. I've prepared a lot of questions where that is concerned. And what we will see is that I will be sending you an email, you and Kenny, tomorrow about the debate rules so that we were clear on how we're going to be doing that and you guys can be in agreement. And I'm going to be putting a little twist to it. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
So look forward to a lot of folks telling your neighbors to join us on Wednesday night. The moderator will be Mr. David Jones. He'll be coming in again to join us. I can't talk about the twist yet, Patrick, because they have to agree to it first. So I can't announce something that they don't agree to. So I have to send them an email. So I'm assured that they agree to it. I'm sorry you're not happy with the interview, Patrick. I think the interview was fair. Do you think the interview was fair, Nathan?
It was pretty good.
Yes, it was pretty good, pretty interesting. I have to ask these questions, and it's not about whether or not I agree with them or don't agree with them. The questions come from the public as well. So I do put on the Palm Bay Live Facebook page for individuals to send me their questions. So when they do send me their questions, I clean it up as best as possible, and I try to pose it. So the questions are not just from me; they're from the community as well. So, this is something that I do to ensure that the community also has a voice. So that's pretty much what it is. So again, the community as a whole can submit your questions, and I have interviewed tomorrow night with Mr. Kenny Johnson, and it was open for everybody to submit their questions. That way I can clean them up and submit them. And you guys had your questions as well tonight. Okay. All right, so that's what that is. So join me on Wednesday night at we're going to start early around 7 p.m. because I have one other interview. Has nothing to do with the one person from a chamber that's going to be coming on at 7 p.m. to discuss their chamber activities, and then the debate will start promptly at 8 p.m. Eastern time. All right, Nathan, it was fun. I wish you best of luck in your campaign.
Thank
and looking forward to seeing the campaign trail, sir.
Thank you. Looking forward to Wednesday.
We're looking forward to Wednesday. All righty. Have a good night, folks. Talk to you soon.